What is going on, Nittany Nation? Welcome to the Penn State Rivals YouTube channel. And we literally just finished watching a straight up dismantling of Penn State versus Auburn, 41-12 at Jordan Hare Stadium. I'm an Alabama guy since I was born, and I have never seen a team go into Auburn Stadium like that and just completely take it over, not even with just the fans, but the rushing attack. So I'm going to talk about this game and everything that went on and what really stuck out to me. But like I said, it starts with the traveling of the Penn State fans. We saw it on social media all week long. Leading up to 2 days ago, even Auburn writers were like, guys, this place is flooded with Penn State fans. So it started with Penn State fans, and you heard it at the end of the game, chanting out, the "We Are Penn State" going throughout Jordan Hare Stadium. And that made a huge difference. If you saw the beginning of the game, and like I said, I've watched many Auburn games. I've been to Auburn before. This place is crazy. The beginning gave me chills because it just felt like a SEC on CBS game, big time game. Number 22 Penn State undefeated versus the Auburn Tigers of the SEC, just physical. They have this background of just the craziness of Jordan Hare Stadium, and it lived up to its potential. If you're on the Penn State side of things, if you're on the Auburn side of things, then this game was probably the biggest disappointment you've had in a very long time. But just watching this game, if you are a Penn State fan, this is as satisfied you should be throughout the whole season so far. Even winning at Purdue, the game-winning touchdown, fighting through adversity, everything you saw from that last week, just dismantling Ohio at home. You saw Nicholas Singleton go off. But this game here is the icing on the cake until you face Michigan coming up in a few weeks. But this was just a complete performance. And I honestly, I'm kind of proud of the preparation and the scouting I did on both of these two teams. And if you go back and watch the preview episode that I did, this game really went the way I thought it was. I just didn't think it was going to be this dominant. I told y'all, Penn State is going to set up the running game to help out Sean Clifford because they don't want him going out there throwing it 30, 40 times in this game. Penn State's going to run the ball, and they have to run the ball to have a solid chance at beating Auburn. But I didn't think Auburn's secondary is as good this year as it has been in the past, especially the game last year. And Sean Clifford didn't, have some crazy, off the wall 300-yard game. He was 14 for 19, 178 yards, but big time plays, especially on his feet. The crazy lateral play to Lambert Smith. He threw it back to Clifford, his only completion and his only catch in his career. It was a big gain, and just these crazy plays that we really haven't seen in this Penn State offense. So Sean Clifford gutted it out. Like I said, there's big plays that have to be made, whether it's, maneuvering in the pocket, using his feet, these quarterback draws, like for that touchdown that he had, these design runs. Clifford doesn't look like the guy that's going to get those. You would think Drew Allar, bigger body style. I sat there and told y'all, and a lot of people in the comments said this, Auburn fans and Penn State fans. I said, if you are Penn State and your defensive line, you cannot leave holes, especially the linebackers. Do not be too aggressive. Do not over pursue and let these open lanes, open up for Finley or Ashford, whoever is going to be running. And a good bit of the times, especially on third downs, big third downs, Finley was the guy. He actually ran the ball, and I try to tell you, he would not be afraid to run. I know he's the passing of the two between him and Ashford did his thing too, late in the game, kind of in like the crunch time, garbage time when they were down. They made the switch, and it was just kind of too late. Auburn's offense didn't really come to life until the game was way out of reach. But I told you, I said, do not be surprised if Finley runs the ball. And you've got to watch Tank Bigsby. But Tank Bigsby had 9 carries for 39 yards. This is one of the best running backs in the entire SEC, arguably a top 5 draft prospect at his position, just completely taken out of this game. And I said, PJ Mustipher, you need to step up in the middle of that D-line and be a leader who just stops the run. And like I said, Finley had some plays where, third downs, he's running up the middle, or he's able to step up in the pocket and throw to a guy that's open behind the linebackers because they were too aggressive, because that's Manny Diaz. Manny's aggressive on third downs. He's going to want to get to the quarterback, but he did. And you have to be happy with that. You're going to give up some plays, but there's the risk and there's the reward. And when you look at the defensive performance, 2 forced fumbles, there 6 sacks in the game. And for me, that's hard with a mobile quarterback, especially. But you look at the guys, Abdullah Carter, Jair Brown, Adisa Isaac, Curtis Jacobs, and Chop Robinson, Dennis Sutton, all of these guys, whether it's vets, but especially these young guys coming in. Carter, man, I missed seeing him in that Purdue game. Got ejected. I really wanted to see what he could do there. But this was his game to come out and just have a breakout party as at number 11, the LeVar Arrington, the Micah Parsons, that iconic number 11 linebacker number at Penn State. And he's so far absolutely lived up to the expectations. Even Gary Danielson in the media, like during the game, the broadcast was just saying like how good this guy's going to be and how good he already is at such a young age. But you look at 11 tackles for loss. That was huge in the run game. You talk about Adisa Isaac having 3 himself and then just spread out across the board. Like I said, Carter, Brown, Elston, Hardy, Jacobs, Dennis Sutton, all these guys just controlling the trenches. Auburn's always got a great offensive line. That's something they pride themselves in. And we knew they were going to run the ball. But what Penn State did was completely take the running out of the game, whether it was with Hunter or Bigsby. But TJ Finley got his a couple times. Like I said, it's going to happen. But if you break it down, the total rushing yards, 119 by Auburn, 245 by Penn State. That is the most lopsided rushing attack I have ever seen at Jordan Hare Stadium. That's even with Alabama. Because most of the time when we had Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram and TJ Yeldon and Najee Harris and all these guys, Auburn always had good backs that could compete and they would control in the trenches. Their offensive line was always elite. They were physical and they didn't look anything like they did today. So if you're an Auburn fan, you were absolutely defeated by this. But Penn State fans, you saw the most complete game possible. I wanted to see a little bit more passing from Penn State. But like I said, they knew what to do. Get the run game going, control the offense, control the game, and don't get, too crazy. They had a couple, little trick plays, which was awesome. It worked. They set that up, though, with their offensive scheme and how they were playing throughout the game. But still, a total of 232 yards passing. Of course, we saw Drew Aller get to come in late in the game, which I didn't think would happen. Like I said, at Auburn, you weren't expecting this dominant of a game. But I just have to say, man, I watched and studied this Penn State defense last year, even before I started, covering and talking about the team. And I loved what I saw from this defense. And then, of course, Manny Diaz comes over. I'm like, what kind of defense are we going to expect? 5-man fronts, they're going to play, 4-man fronts, and they're going to play zone. It's going to be man. How often they're going to rush? And Manny Diaz loves rushing on third downs. And sometimes, like I said, it bit them in the butt. But seeing what Chop Robinson does, I was zoned in on him throughout most of the game. Just seeing the swim moves, the technique, it's with power and speed at the same time. This guy is a force. Coach Franklin hyped it up before the season. He said, even though he might not start like on that outside immediately, he's going to rotate in a lot, and he's absolutely going to have a big, role on this defense. And I see it 100%. And then Jair Brown today. Oh my gosh, this was his coming out party. He forced a fumble, had an interception. Let me get out all his stats because I want to give him as much props as possible. 5 tackles, 4 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, a QB hurry, a forced fumble, and an interception. In my opinion, he's defensive player of the game. Forcing that big fumble, getting that the interception. One thing, I will say one negative thing about Penn State. And that was the drives not being able to capitalize off of big plays. So we get the interception, punt. They fumble it, punt. Auburn fumbles, field goal. I'll take it. They did get 1 touchdown after an interception in the second half. Like I said, the Jair Brown. But it just too many times they got really good field position. And beginning of the game, I told myself like that 4th down call, it's so early. You don't know how the rest of this game is going to play out, but he just felt really good about his defense. Coach Franklin did, and he felt good that the offense was going to be able to move down the field throughout the game, and they absolutely did. So, scores, Sean Clifford had the 7-yard run. Kaytron Allen had a 3-yard touchdown run. Nicholas Singleton, 1-yard touchdown. Look, Jake Pengar, career high 48-yard field goal. I'm going to show some love to some kickers because there's some moments coming up in the season where you have to depend on a kicker like that. And I know this might have been like the weak point of the team. People had a lot of question marks with, Stout gone, and they just didn't really know what to expect from the special teams unit. But a 48-yard field goal, career high, put it up 24-6. Then Kaytron Allen pounded it in again. Then Nicholas Singleton had that 54-yard touchdown run. And then, of course, Jake kicked another 22-yard to win it 41-12. But Nicholas Singleton, 10 yards, 10 carries, 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaged 12.4. And if you remember, if you watched the previous show, I told you he currently led the FBS before the game with 10.5 yards per carry, which was all of college football. 10.5, and he averaged 12.4 this game. So it's going to go up even higher. It's going to be like 11 something. That is wild to me. And 2 touchdowns, had the long of 54. Kaytron Allen pounding it in. Sean Clifford pounded it in. 245 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. That is, I'm telling you, Penn State fans, that is demoralizing as an Auburn fan. And if you check out our Twitter page, Penn State Rivals, we posted some screenshots of the Auburn threads and the talk rooms and chats going on through Auburn's rival site. It is not looking pretty. People have been ready for Harston to be gone, but this is pretty much the icing on the cake for them. And for them, it's where do you go at quarterback with TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford? I told you on the previous show, their quarterback play is very limited. They are not going to be able to do anything on this Penn State defense, whether it's with the pass rush, whether it's with the forced fumbles, the interceptions, the pass deflections, being able to just lock those guys down. Shedrick Jackson and Javaris Johnson had 76 yards, 73 yards. I'd say Bigsby had a couple catches, and so did Hunter. But all in all, absolute dominant performance by Penn State's defense. I think it's all great play calling by Manny Diaz. And like I said, those third down and longs, they sucked. They hurt. He's going to go back, watch those plays, and he's going to see where he brought Curtis Jacobs on a blitz and just left that middle wide open. You need some kind of spy there. Trust me, I have learned my lesson as an Alabama fan, whether it was Cam Newton or any of these other mobile quarterbacks that we faced at Auburn. You have to have a guy there to spy and really just hold that down. And then if he ends up throwing it, you have another guy to kind of protect behind him, in that zone. So I think Manny Diaz is going to be very satisfied with what he saw from this defense. I think he's going to go back and watch and tweak a couple things. But if you look at the games, coming up like Michigan with the J.J. McCarthy, being able to stop the run, being able to shut down that passing game, I think you come away with this game satisfied of what's to come and who all is left that you have to face this season and what that could look like. I think Penn State looked like a top 20 team, very close to top 15. I'm confident in saying that because they are complete, whether it's on defense, whether it's the running game or the passing game. But I just did not expect this kind of a dominant, result. I had it pretty close. I mean, not too close, but I had it pretty, closer than this for sure. But it went exactly. It didn't surprise me how this game went, the flow, results. The one thing that did surprise me was the 245 yards rushing. And I know a lot of people were saying there was a moment there where Singleton wasn't in the game, but Kaytron Allen was getting hot. They just kept feeding him a little bit. And then you bring in the fresh legs of Nicholas Singleton. It's not like you're running him 30, 35 times a game like Derrick Henry used to be, literally running it like 30 times a game, which was wild. You're bringing in fresh legs of Nicholas Singleton, and you saw that one drive. The very first run, deep run, and then he ran it 2 more times and scored. So it's very satisfying to see that you have this rotation of Kaytron Allen, Singleton, Kevon Lee, even Devin Ford coming in at the end. And when I mentioned, in the running back preview before the season, this offense, the running game is not what it's been in the past in a very good way. You haven't had that home run ability, with Noah Cain and Kevon Lee. It just wasn't there last year. You were missing a huge chunk of offense last season. I think Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen both just bring such a spark, just a firecracker that can go off at any second. I mean, Kaytron Allen averaged 5.8 yards per carry against this defense today too. So I love seeing these young guys come here and just absolutely dominate. some of these Auburn guys that have been here for a long time, whether it was Tank or TJ Finley. Like Robbie Ashford's, he's transferred in, but he's not too new, to the game. But being able to shut that down, it's impressive. Like I said, I came away satisfied. They have Central Michigan coming up next. Obviously, expect that to be a huge blowout. I'm going to do a preview show on that one as well. Going to try to bring someone on from Central Michigan and get a little bit of intel from them. But just at the end of the day, complete game. Very not surprised, but just I've never seen Jordan Hare taken over by fans that much. So if you were at the game, like give yourself a round of applause because it was alive. It was well. Even just watching from home, I saw the difference in the blue and the white, and of course all the Auburn and the blue that was there. But it took a big factor out of that game. Auburn wasn't crazy. There's a couple moments where it was big, and first beginning of the game when we went 4-on-4, didn't get it. Auburn was getting loud. But Penn State just did a great job of bouncing back and taking that away, getting the touchdown after that field goal, second possession. And then of course, getting the interception, just sucking the life out of that stadium. That was key. That's what you have to do. You can't let a hostile environment like that, get to you, kind of like Purdue did for a little bit. You're going to have to travel some more this season. But still, just nonetheless, absolute beatdown. They sweep the series after a crazy game last year. The whiteout at Penn State, it was 28-20, I think it was. This one wasn't at all close. And I told y'all, this is not the same Auburn team as it was last year. Last year, I think they were much better, even with Bo Nix, whether you hate him or not. This Auburn team was much better last year, but I still think they're good this year. That Auburn's never just bad, especially at home. If this was like at Penn State, I'd be like, okay, they're just not good. And Penn State absolutely just beat them, down at Beaver Stadium. But no, this was at Jordan Hare. This was in their backyard, drug them through the field for 4 quarters and just left them there. I loved it. I mean, especially as an closet Alabama fan, I try not to be biased with these, but I thought Auburn was going to have a lot more to show, especially on defense. I didn't think Penn State would score 41. I think the ceiling for me was low 30s. But still, it's just great game planning, both by Diaz and Franklin. Offense, defense did exactly what you had to do. I didn't see a real weak link except those 3rd and longs that Penn State gave up. I think the receiving game is going to get there even more and more and more. You didn't need to against Auburn, though. You were running the ball down their throat, almost 250 yards. You averaged 6.3 yards per carry as a team. That's scary. 5 touchdowns. That is as dominating as it can be in the run game. That was not here last year. So buckle up, Penn State fans. I'm interested to see how high the rankings go. But drop your thoughts in the comments. I love when y'all be interacting, getting the channel going. I'm going to try to find some all 22 films so I can break some stuff down, some plays. That Kaytron Allen cutback, man. Oh, that was gorgeous for the touchdown. That was only a 5-6 yard rush, but Brenton Strange, who, by the way, is an absolute playmaker. Put some respect on Brenton Strange's name. That one play where he tries to hurdle the guy, but just gets catapulted upfield even more, jumping over 2 guys, books it up the field. The Purdue touchdown, this guy is a straight up weapon. And then you have Theo Johnson coming back. He was dressed out, didn't, play. But still, absolute weapon. 80 yards, 6 catches. He has a 13.3 average this game. I think Parker Washington looked good. Mitchell Tinsley looked good. Those guys didn't look guardable. I'm telling y'all, Mitch is my dude. I still think he's the best wide receiver on this team. Nothing against anyone else. I think Parker Washington has his own thing that he does. That he's phenomenal at. But I think one of these games, Mitchell Tinsley's going to just break loose, and it's probably next week against Central Michigan. I think they all will. But still, Brenton Strange, man, that dude's a beast. I can see why he's getting more hype behind his name as a draft tight end, coming out as one of these prospects. But that block he had on Kaytron Allen's touchdown run in the end zone, just sealing that last guy off, and then Kaytron cut back. Oh, man, the vision, that's textbook. Blocking by Strange at tight end, it might be a receiving link at tight end in the NFL now, but you still have to block. If you need any kind of run game, you need a blocking tight end. And then just the vision by Kaytron Allen, who's from Virginia, by the way, 2 up, 2 down. Shout out to all the Virginia people. I think this team can do some damage, and they were talking about it. Not even just Kirk Herbstreit, who said this is like his sleeper team. I think Penn State has legit chances at beating some teams. You have Central Michigan, the Northwestern game, which I'm going to be at. You go to Michigan at Ann Arbor. They're number 4 right now. We'll see where they're ranked at. It very well should be a top 15 matchup. I think Penn State will shoot up to the top 20 next week. We'll see who all loses. Beat Central Michigan, just take care of that. Other people ahead of you are going to fall. I think that could absolutely be a top 15 matchup. And then you got Minnesota. You play Ohio State at home. You go to Indiana, Maryland at home. I'll be at that game. At Rutgers and Michigan State at home. So as long as you beat Michigan, that is the one. You got to beat Ohio State at home, beat Michigan State at home, travel to Michigan. That's your 3 toughest games remaining on the schedule. But still, this was a huge one to check off. Before the season started, before seeing how good Auburn was, I said, you drugged them and fought hard and at home last year. That was a crazy game. They tried coming back at the very end, got shut down to the last play of the game. If you can go to Auburn and make a statement, that is, and this was not even just a statement. This was like a complete exclamation point. This 41-12, that should get you that should flirt with the top 15. Absolutely has to be able to. You go at Purdue, even though they lost to Syracuse in a crazy game. That lost me a lot of money. But at Purdue, at Auburn, the way you did, I think Penn State's a top 15 team, and it's because they are a complete team in the running game, passing game, defense. They have the pass rush. They have the coverage guys. The linebackers have come a long ways. I exceeded expectations from what I expected with them being so young. Abdul Carter is going to be an absolute beast. Curtis Jacobs, Sutherland, all those guys are showing up. Just super proud of how everyone looked, honestly. Definitely going to go back and rewatch this game. Like I said, it literally just ended a couple minutes ago, though. But hope y'all enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, a lot of things cooking up. Dylan's going to do an episode in his podcast breaking things down. He was there on the field, so I can't wait to see or hear how his interaction there was, the experience being on the field at Jordan Hare, especially as crazy as it was in the beginning. And, of course, he's going to be at like all the home games. So just subscribe to the channel. Got a lot of big things coming up. Like I said, absolutely going to be previewing the Central Michigan game, giving y'all an insight. That's a 12 o'clock game next week. Stay tuned. Football season's alive and well. Penn State is just firing in all cylinders right now. And if you're a Penn State fan, I don't get the James Franklin hate, and I don't get the Sean Clifford hate. These 3 games here should have hushed you up. If you have anything bad to say against those 2 guys, which I see it a lot, which makes no sense. Just buckle up, enjoy the ride of the 2022 season, and I'll see y'all for the preview show coming up later on this next week.